Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research ship Meridian, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling for 3 months now, heading toward the Veil Nebula to study strange energy readings. Jake was 42 years old and had spent most of his life in space. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Study some cosmic dust, take readings, and head home to Earth. "Captain, I'm getting something weird on the scanner," said Lisa Chen from her station. She was the communications officer and had been with the crew for 2 years. Lisa was good at her job and never reported false readings. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of weird?" "There's a ship out there," Lisa said, pointing at her screen. "It's big, maybe 3 times our size. But it's not moving and there's no power signature." Jake looked at the readings. The ship was definitely alien, no human. Technology looked like that. The hull had strange curves and the metal seemed to glow with a dull light, even though it was clearly damaged. "Tom, what do you think?" Jake called to his chief engineer. Tom Bradley was a big man with rough hands who could fix anything that broke on the ship. He came over and studied the scanner data. "It's dead in space, Captain. No power, no life support." "Whatever happened?" "2. It happened a while ago." Dr. Rachel Hayes joined them at the scanner.
Others.
She was the ship's doctor and also studied alien biology when they found any. "Are there life signs?" Lisa worked her controls for a moment. "Hard to tell with all that strange metal, but I think so. It's very weak, maybe just 1 or 2. Jake thought about what to do. Earth's rules were clear about alien contact. Report it. First, wait for orders, then make contact only with full backup. But if there were survivors on that ship, they might die while Earth made up its mind. "Captain," Tom said quietly, "if there are people alive over there, they won't last long without life support." That decided it for Jake. "Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we found an alien ship with possible survivors. Tom, get a rescue team ready. Rachel, bring your medical equipment." "Sir, regulations say we should wait for orders," Lisa said. "Regulations also say we help anyone in distress," Jake replied. "Get me 6 volunteers for the boarding party within an hour." Jake was floating in space wearing his pressure suit. Tom Bradley was beside him, along with Dr. Hayes and 3 other crew members. The alien ship looked even stranger up close. The metal seemed to move slightly, like it was alive. They found an airlock that Tom managed to open with some creative engineering. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Their helmet lights showed corridors that were too tall for humans, clearly built for something much larger. "Be careful," Jake said over the radio. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Found the first body 20 meters into the ship. It was huge, maybe 8 feet tall, with tough gray skin and sharp claws. It wore some kind of armor that had been torn open. Whatever killed it had been violent, reptilian, Dr. Hayes said, scanning the body, but more advanced than Earth lizards. "Look at the skull size. This thing was very smart." They found more bodies as they went deeper into the ship. All the same species, all killed in what looked like a fight. The walls had blast marks and claw scratches. Something had gone very wrong on this ship. "Over here," called Tom from a side corridor. "I think I found a survivor." The alien was in what looked like a medical bay connected to machines that were barely working. It was breathing but unconscious. Dr. Hayes immediately went to work, scanning it with her equipment. "It's alive, but just barely," she said. "We need to get it back to our ship now if we're going to save it." They carefully moved the alien to the Meridian. Dr. Hayes worked for 6 hours in the medical bay while Jake waited outside. When she finally came out, she looked tired but satisfied. "It will live," she said. "But Jake, this thing is built like a perfect killer. Look at these readings. Muscle density 3 times human normal. Reaction speed that would make it faster than anything on Earth. Claws that could cut through steel. This species evolved to be apex predators." Jake thought about that. Any idea? "What happened to the others?" "They killed each other," Rachel said. "From what I can tell, they went crazy and turned on each other. Maybe some kind of disease or poison." 3 days later, the alien woke up. Jake was in the medical bay when its eyes opened. They were bright yellow and very intelligent. The alien tried to sit up, saw Jake, and immediately stopped moving. What happened next surprised everyone. The alien, despite being twice Jake's size and obviously built for fighting, lowered its head and made soft sounds that seemed respectful. It acted like Jake was its superior. "This is strange," Dr. Hayes said. "It's showing submission behavior. But it's never seen a human before." Jake tried to communicate. He pointed to himself and said, "Human." The alien repeated the word carefully, then pointed to itself and made a sound like Cain. Jake decided to call it Cain. Over the next few days, Cain learned some English with amazing speed. What it told them made no sense. According to Cain, humans had something called the Authority. All hunting species in the galaxy recognized it and had to obey it. "You are the first hunters," Cain said in broken English. "We serve the first hunters. Always have. Always will." Jake didn't understand. Humans had never been to the galaxy before. They'd never met Cain's people. But somehow this deadly alien predator treated him like a natural superior. "Why do you serve us?" Jake asked. Cain thought for a long moment, then said something that would change everything. "It is written in our blood. It is written in our bones. The first hunter's command. We obey. This is the way." Jake looked at his crew. None of them understood what was happening. But one thing was clear. Humanity had just learned they held a special place in the galaxy, and they had no idea what that meant. As the Meridian continued toward Earth with its alien passenger, Jake wondered what they would find when they met other species. Would they all react like Cain? And if so, what did that mean for humanity's future among the stars? The answers would come soon enough. But for now, Jake watched Cain work alongside his crew, following orders from humans like it was the most natural thing in the universe, even though Jake had never given those orders, and Cain had never questioned why it should obey. 3 weeks after finding Cain, the Meridian approached Haven Prime space station. It was the biggest trading post in this part of the galaxy where dozens of alien species came to buy, sell, and make deals. Captain Jake Morrison had been looking forward to finally getting some answers about what made humans special. "Captain, we're getting a priority docking signal," Lisa Chen said from her communication station. "They're giving us the VIP berth." Jake frowned. "We didn't ask for special treatment. We're just a research ship." "That's what I told them," Lisa replied. "But they insist. The station commander wants to meet with you personally." As the Meridian docked, Jake could see the massive station through the windows. It was built like a giant wheel spinning in space, with ships of all sizes and shapes attached to it. Some looked like human designs. Most were completely alien. Cain had been quiet during the approach, but now he seemed nervous. "Many hunters here," he said in his improving English. "They will all know you are first hunters." "What does that mean exactly?" Jake asked. "You will see," Cain said, but would not explain further. Jake took Tom Bradley and Dr. Rachel Hayes with him to meet the station commander. Security Chief Mark Thompson came too, along with Dr. Daniel Foster there, alien expert. As they walked through the docking tube, Jake noticed the station guards were not human. The first alien they met was huge and covered in thick fur with sharp teeth, showing when it talked. It took one look at Jake and immediately stepped back, lowering its head slightly. "Welcome to Haven Prime, Captain Morrison," it said in perfect English. "I am Guard Captain Roth. Commander Thex is waiting for you." Jake noticed how the alien's whole body language changed when it saw him. It went from proud and confident to respectful, almost submissive, just like Cain had done. The corridors of Haven Prime were crowded with aliens of every type Jake could imagine. There were small, insect-like creatures with multiple arms, tall, thin beings with large eyes, and heavy armored species that looked like walking tanks. But as Jake's group walked through the station, something amazing happened. Every predator species they passed reacted the same way. The moment they saw the humans, they stepped aside and lowered their heads. Some made soft sounds that seemed respectful. Others simply stared with what looked like wonder. "Is it just me, or is everyone acting weird around us?" Tom whispered. "It's not just you," Dr. Hayes replied. Look at their body language. Every carnivore species is showing submission behavior." Dr. Foster was taking notes as fast as he could. This is incredible. They've never seen humans before, but they all recognize us as superior somehow. They reached Commander Dex's office, and Jake got his biggest surprise yet. Dex was clearly a predator. She looked like a cross between a wolf and a dragon, with gray scales, sharp claws, and teeth that could bite through steel. It was easily 7 feet tall and probably weighed twice what Jake did. But when Jake walked into her office, Dex immediately stood and lowered her head in respect. "Captain Morrison," she said in a deep growling voice, "it is an honor to have first hunters on my station. How may I serve you?" Jake was getting tired of not understanding what was happening. "Commander Dex, why do you call us first hunters? We've never been here before." Dex looked surprised. "You do not know? But surely you learned of the Hunter's Creed as children." "We don't have any Hunter's Creed on Earth," Dr. Foster said. "Could you explain it to us?" Dex's expression changed to something like shock. "You truly do not know? Then I must tell you of the old laws, the laws that all hunting peoples follow." She gestured for them to sit, though she remained standing out of respect. "Long ago, before any of our species reached the stars, the Hunter's Creed was written into our very souls. It says that all who hunt, all who kill to live, must serve the first hunters when they come." "But how do you know we're these first hunters?" Jake asked. "'Cause we cannot help but know," Dex replied. "When a hunting species sees a first hunter, something in our blood tells us. We feel it in our bones. You are what we were made to serve." Dr. Foster leaned forward. "This is biological, not cultural," both Dex said. "The feeling comes from within, but every hunting species has stories of the first hunters. We were told they would come someday and take their rightful place as leaders. Of all hunters, Mark Thompson had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "Commander, what about non-hunting species? Do they feel the same way?" "No," Dex replied. "The plant eaters and scavengers feel nothing special toward you. This law only affects those who kill to survive, the true predators." As if to prove her point, a small alien with big eyes and no visible teeth came into the office carrying drinks. It looked at the humans with curiosity but showed no special respect. It served everyone equally and left without any unusual behavior. After the meeting, Jake's team walked through more of the station. In the market areas, they saw the difference clearly. Herbivore aliens treated them normally like any other customers. But every predator species, from the smallest hunter to the biggest warrior, showed immediate respect. In the security section, they met Vex, the station's most feared bounty hunter. Vex was a nightmare creature with 4 arms, razor claws, and skin like black leather. Other aliens crossed to the far side of the corridor when they saw him coming. But when Vex saw Mark Thompson, the deadly hunter immediately approached and bowed his head. Security Chief Vex said in a hissing voice, "I offer my services to you. No payment required. It would be an honor to hunt for first hunters." Mark was so surprised he didn't know what to say. Here was the most dangerous being on the station, offering to work for free just because Mark was human? Later, back on the Meridian, Jake called a meeting with his senior staff. "We need to understand what's happening here," he said. "Every predator species we meet treats us like natural leaders, but we don't know why or what it means." Dr. Foster had been studying all day. "Captain, I think this goes deeper than we thought. I've been talking to various species, and they all have the same stories. Ancient laws about serving the first hunters. But here's the interesting part. None of them know where these laws came from." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I'll say. The laws are older than their civilizations, older than their recorded history. Some species think the laws were given to them by gods. Others believe they're just natural instincts. But they all agree on one thing. When they see humans, they know we're the ones they're supposed to serve." "Doctor?" Hayes looked worried. "Jake, what are we going to do with this information? Can't just tell Earth that we're apparently the natural rulers of every predator species in the galaxy." "We have to," Jake replied, "because if we don't understand this, we might make terrible mistakes. These species aren't choosing to follow us. Something in their biology is making them do it." Kane, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. Captain Jake is wise to worry. The hunter's creed is strong, very strong. We cannot fight it, even if we wanted to. You must be careful with this power. As the Meridian prepared to leave Haven Prime, Jake looked out at all the alien ships docked. At the station, somewhere out there were millions of predator species, all carrying this strange biological programming that made them serve humans. Jake realized that humanity had just discovered they weren't just another species in the galaxy. They were something special, something that had been waited for. But he still didn't know what that really meant, what responsibilities came with being the first hunters. The answers were waiting somewhere in the galaxy, and Jake was determined to find them. 2 months had passed since the events at Haven Prime. Captain Jake Morrison was back on Earth, sitting in a meeting room with the most important people in the government. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, head of Earth's deep space program, looked tired as she read through reports from other human ships. "It's happening everywhere," Admiral Rodriguez said. "Every time our ships meet predator aliens, the same thing occurs. They immediately treat our crews as natural leaders." Dr. Daniel Foster had spent weeks studying the biological data they collected. He stood up to address the room. "We've made some important discoveries. Working with alien scientists, we found something incredible in the DNA of every predator species we've tested." He activated a wall screen showing complex genetic patterns. Every single predator species has the same genetic markers. They're artificial, not natural. Someone put them there on purpose. Jake leaned forward. "What kind of markers?" "Think of them as biological programming," Dr. Foster explained. "When a predator alien sees a human, these markers activate. They create chemicals in the alien's brain that make them feel they must obey humans. They can't fight it because it's written into their genes." General Patricia Williams, Earth's top military leader, looked concerned. "Are you saying someone designed these aliens to serve us?" "Not exactly," Dr. Foster replied. "We think someone designed them to serve whoever came after the designers. And that appears to be us." Dr. Rachel Hayes had been working with alien medical experts. She stood to share her findings. "We've identified the species that did this. They called themselves the progenitors. They lived millions of years ago and spread life throughout the galaxy. The aliens have stories about them," Hayes continued.
Else.
"The progenitors were supposedly the first intelligent species to reach the stars. They seeded planets with life and guided evolution. But then they disappeared." Communications Officer Kevin Walsh had been monitoring alien transmissions. "Captain, I've been listening to classified alien government communications. Some of them have known about us for a long time." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Kevin pulled up intercepted messages. "Several alien governments have ancient records about the sleeping giants, a species that would eventually wake up and take control of all predator races. They've been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for us to develop space travel." Admiral Rodriguez stood up. "This explains why first contact has been so smooth. They were expecting us." Tom Bradley, who had been quiet during the meeting, finally spoke. "So what you're telling us is that we're genetically programmed to be the bosses of every dangerous species in the galaxy?" "That's exactly what we're telling you," Dr. Foster confirmed. "But only predator species. Herbivores and other types of aliens don't have these genetic markers. They see us as just another species." Jake thought about Kane, who was now living on Earth and helping them understand alien culture. "Kane told me something interesting yesterday. He said the genetic programming doesn't just make predators serve us, it makes them want to protect us." "That's correct," Dr. Hayes said. "The genetic markers create a powerful protective instinct toward humans. Predator aliens literally cannot harm humans, even if they want to. Their own biology prevents it." General Williams looked worried. "This is dangerous information. If the wrong people find out that we can command any predator species." "It's too late for that," Kevin said. "Alien news networks are already reporting on human encounters. Secret is getting out across the galaxy." Admiral Rodriguez made a decision. "I'm putting you in charge of a special task force. We need to learn everything we can about this situation before it gets out of control." 3 weeks later, Jake was aboard a new ship called the Pathfinder, heading toward the galactic core where the oldest civilizations lived. His crew included many of the same people from the Meridian, plus some new faces. They were traveling to meet the Eldori Council. One of the few species that existed before the progenitors, the Eldori were ancient and powerful, and they might have answers about humanity's role in the galaxy, but as they traveled, they kept encountering more evidence of their special status. At every space station and planet they visited, predator species immediately recognized them and offered service. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the entire security force of warrior aliens requested to join Jake's crew. On the trade planet Nexus 4, assassin guilds sent representatives offering their services for free. Dr. Foster made another important discovery while studying progenitor ruins on an abandoned world. "Jake, look at this," he said, showing ancient carvings on a stone wall. The carvings showed tall, hairless beings that looked remarkably like humans. They were depicted leading armies of various alien species, all bowing before them. "The progenitors looked like us," Dr. Foster said. "Or maybe we look like them. Either way, the genetic programming was designed to recognize this specific body type and brain pattern as the ultimate authority." Kane, who had insisted on joining the mission, studied the carvings carefully. "My people have stories of the first ones," he said. "They looked exactly like these carvings, like you." "So we're not the first humans in the galaxy?" Jake asked. "Progenitors weren't human," Dr. Foster explained. "But they designed the genetic programming to activate when true successors appeared. Somehow, we evolved on Earth to match exactly what they were looking for." As they got closer to Eldori space, Jake received disturbing news from Kevin Walsh. "Captain, I'm intercepting military communications. Some species are planning to attack. Human colonies?" "Which species?" Jake asked. "Non-predators mostly. The plantators and scavengers. They're afraid that humans will use predator species to conquer the galaxy." Jake realized they were heading into a much more dangerous situation than he had thought. Not every species was happy about humanity's special status. Some saw humans as a threat that needed to be eliminated before they could use their power over predators. But Jake also knew that millions of predator aliens were now genetically compelled to protect humanity. If war came, it wouldn't be humans fighting alone. Every dangerous species in the galaxy would be fighting on their side. The question was whether that would make things better or worse. As the Pathfinder approached Eldori space, Jake prepared for what might be the most important diplomatic mission in human history. The fate of both humanity and the entire galactic civilization might depend on what happened next. Behind them, across known space, predator species were already mobilizing. It's not because anyone had ordered them to, but because their genetic programming told them that the first hunters might need protection. The galaxy was about to change forever, and Jake Morrison was at the center of it all.
The Galactic Parliament building on Nexus Prime was the largest structure Jake Morrison had ever seen. It reached into the clouds and housed representatives from over 300 species. As Captain Jake walked through the main entrance with Ambassador Patricia Williams, he could feel the weight of history on his shoulders. "Remember, Jake," Ambassador Williams said quietly, "we're here to prevent a war, not start one. Let me do most of the talking." Jake nodded, but he was worried. In the 3 days since they had arrived at Nexus Prime, the situation had gotten much worse. Protests were happening outside the Parliament building. Some species demanded that humans be given immediate leadership positions. Others wanted humans banned from galactic space entirely. Their escort was Commander Thex from Haven Prime Station. She had volunteered to come to Nexus Prime to speak for humanity. As they walked through the Parliament halls, Jake noticed how other species reacted to their group. Predator species stepped aside respectfully when they saw Jake. But many of the herbivore aliens stared at them with fear or anger. The galaxy was clearly divided about what to do with humanity. "The Gorthak Empire has already declared for you," Thex explained as they walked. "Supreme Hunter Reyes announced yesterday that all Gorthak military forces now serve humanity. This has caused panic among the other species." Jake felt sick. The Gorthak were known as the most powerful military force in the galaxy. If they were offering their entire fleet to humanity, other species would see it as a threat. We never asked for their military, Ambassador Williams said. It does not matter, Thex replied. Supreme Hunter Reyes cannot help himself. The genetic programming makes him want to serve you. He sees offering his military as the greatest gift he can give. They entered the main Parliament chamber, and Jake was amazed by what he saw. The room was enormous, with thousands of seats arranged in circles. Each section was designed for different types of aliens. Some areas had water for aquatic species. Others had thick atmosphere for gas-breathing aliens. Ambassador Williams took her place at the speaker's podium, while Jake sat in the human section. It was a small area that had been hastily built just for this meeting. Humanity had never been part of galactic politics before. The Parliament speaker was an ancient being called Counselor Veth, one of the few species that predated the progenitors. Veth looked like a walking tree with too many eyes, and Jake could tell immediately that Veth did not like humans. We are here to discuss the human problem, Veth announced in a voice like grinding stone. These newcomers have disrupted the balance that has existed for millions of years. A representative from the Kalari Dominion stood up. Jake recognized the species. They were fierce warriors with scales and sharp teeth. The Kalari representative bowed toward Jake before speaking. Honored Parliament, the Kalari said, we request that humans be given immediate leadership of the Predator Alliance. It is their right by ancient law. This caused an uproar. Hundreds of species began talking at once. Some cheered, others shouted in anger. Jake watched as the Parliament split, clearly along Predator and non-Predator lines. This is madness, shouted a representative from the peaceful Zentari Union. You would give military control of the galaxy to a species we met 3 months ago? They are the first hunters, replied Supreme Hunter Reyes of the Gortak Empire. His voice boomed across the chamber. We have waited millions of years for their return. Now they are here, and we will serve them as our genes command. Ambassador Williams stood to address the Parliament. Honored representatives, humanity does not seek control over anyone. We simply want to understand our place in the galactic community. Your place is as our masters, Reyes declared. This cannot be changed. It is written in our very DNA. Counselor, Veth's many eyes focused on Williams. And that is precisely the problem. No species should have genetic control over others. It is an abomination that threatens the freedom of all thinking beings. Jake noticed movement in the observers' gallery. Dr. Daniel Foster was there with other human scientists, and he was trying to get Jake's attention. Foster was pointing at his datapad urgently. During a break in the proceedings, Jake met with Foster outside the chamber. Jake, we've discovered something terrible, Foster said. Kevin Walsh has been monitoring communications, and we found evidence of a conspiracy. What kind of conspiracy? The Eldori Council is secretly funding a military alliance of non-predator species. They're planning to attack Earth and all human colonies simultaneously. Jake felt cold. How many species are involved? At least 50 so far, maybe more. They believe that if they destroy humanity quickly, they can prevent us from using predator species to conquer the galaxy. But we don't want to conquer anyone, Jake said. They don't believe that, Foster replied. From their perspective, we're a species that can command the loyalty of every dangerous alien in the galaxy. They see us as an existential threat. Jake returned to the Parliament chamber with this new knowledge weighing on his mind. As the debate continued, he could see which species were part of the conspiracy by how they spoke about humanity. The situation got worse when pilot Robert Stone, who was monitoring space traffic, sent an urgent message to Jake's datapad. Military, ships from dozens of non-predator species were gathering at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. At the same time, predator species were sending their own fleets to protect the Parliament and humanity. The space around Nexus Prime was filling with warships from both sides. Counselor Veth, Ambassador Williams said, we can resolve this peacefully. Humanity is willing to accept restrictions on how we interact with predator species. There can be no compromise, Veth replied. Your very existence threatens the natural order. You must be contained or eliminated. That was when Supreme Hunter Reyes stood up. His massive form dominated the chamber as he spoke. Anyone who threatens the first hunters threatens us all. The Gorthak Empire will protect humanity with every ship we have. Other predator species immediately voiced their agreement. Within minutes, half the Parliament was pledging military support to humanity, while the other half was demanding human destruction. Jake realized that the situation was spiraling out of control. The galaxy was about to tear itself apart over humanity's genetic inheritance from the progenitors. "Ambassador," Jake said quietly, "I think we need to leave. Now." Williams nodded. They had come to prevent a war, but instead they had triggered one just by existing. As they prepared to leave the Parliament building, Commander Thex approached them. "Captain Morrison, my people are mobilizing. Every predator species in the galaxy is preparing for war. We cannot help ourselves. The genetic programming makes us fight to protect you." Jake looked out through the building's windows at the ships gathering in space. Somewhere out there, millions of beings were preparing to kill each other because of humanity's unique biological status. "This isn't what we wanted," Jake said. "It does not matter what you want," Thex replied sadly. "The ancient programming is too strong. Predators must protect the first hunters, even if it means destroying half the galaxy." As they boarded their ship to return to Earth, Jake knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had become the center of a conflict they never asked for, between species they barely understood. The war was coming, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Behind them, the Parliament building erupted in chaos as representatives fled to join their respective fleets. The age of galactic peace was over, and humanity was the cause. General Marcus Thompson stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Liberty, watching enemy fleets approach the solar system. 3 months had passed since the Parliament meeting, and the war everyone feared had finally begun. "Sir, we're detecting over 200 ships in the enemy fleet," reported Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell from the sensor station. "They're from at least 20 different species, all non-predators." "What about our allies?" Marcus asked. "The Gorthak fleet is 2 hours behind us, sir. The Vorthak Confederation is approaching from the outer planets. The Kalari Dominion is already in position around Mars." Marcus shook his head in amazement. When the war started, Earth's military had been small and mostly designed for defense. But within weeks, every predator species in the galaxy had sent ships to protect humanity. Earth now commanded the largest fleet in galactic history. The problem was that Marcus didn't want to command it. "General," said Captain Jake Morrison, who had been promoted to admiral after the Parliament incident, "the enemy ships are broadcasting a surrender demand. They want all humans to report to designated containment areas." "They're still trying to contain us instead of destroy us," Marcus observed. "They must think we're controlling the predator species somehow." Jake looked frustrated. "If only they understood that we have no control over this. The genetic programming makes predator species protect us whether we want it or not." The first battle of the human war, as historians would later call it, began. Badly for the non-predator alliance. Their ships were designed for trade and exploration, not combat. The predator species, on the other hand, had evolved for war. The Gorthak ships tore through enemy formations like paper. The Vorthak used hit-and-run tactics that confused the Alliance fleet. The Kalari simply charged straight into enemy lines, relying on their superior weapons and armor. Marcus watched the battle with growing horror. "This isn't a war," he said. "It's a slaughter." Within 6 hours, the Alliance fleet was retreating. They had lost over half their ships while barely damaging any predator vessels, but Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Over the next 2 months, the same pattern repeated across the galaxy. Every time non-predator species attacked human colonies or Earth ships, predator species appeared to defend them. The predators fought with a fury that surprised even their enemies. Dr. Daniel Foster, now working as a military advisor, made a disturbing discovery. "Marcus, I've been studying battle reports. The predator species aren't just fighting to protect us. They're hunting." "What do you mean?" "Look at these patterns," Foster said, showing tactical displays. "They're not just defeating enemy fleets, they're tracking down every ship that escapes. They're hunting the survivors across multiple star systems. Jake, who was leading the main battle fleet, confirmed Foster's observations. The genetic programming doesn't just make them protect humans. It makes them eliminate any threat to humans completely. This created a new problem. The non-predator alliance was being systematically destroyed, but every defeat made them more desperate. They began targeting human civilian colonies directly, hoping to force a quick end to the war. That decision was a terrible mistake. When news reached the predator fleets that civilians had been attacked, their response was immediate and overwhelming. Every assassin guild in the galaxy began hunting alliance leaders. Mercenary companies abandoned their contracts to track down anyone involved in attacks on humans. Even pirate fleets stopped raiding trade ships and started attacking alliance vessels. The genetic programming had turned every dangerous species in the galaxy into humanity's personal army. Marcus received reports that made him sick to his stomach. On the planet Xerion, Kalari warriors had wiped out an entire city because someone there had broadcast anti-human propaganda. On the trade world, Bentos Vorthak assassins had killed the planetary government for planning attacks on human colonies. "This has to stop," Marcus told his senior staff. "We're not conquering the galaxy, we're committing genocide by proxy." Admiral Jake agreed. "The predator species can't help themselves. Their genetic programming is too strong. But we're going to be blamed for everything they do in our name." The war reached its turning point when the Alliance made their final desperate move. They attacked Earth itself with every ship they had left, hoping to destroy humanity's homeworld and break the genetic hold humans had over predator species. The Battle of Earth lasted 3 days. Over 500 Alliance ships attacked the solar system in waves. But they were met by over 2,000 predator vessels that had come from across the galaxy to defend humanity's birthworld. Marcus commanded the defense from Luna Base, watching in horror as the space around Earth became a graveyard of ships. The predator species fought with such fury that many Alliance ships surrendered rather than face complete destruction. On the 3rd day, the Alliance fleet broke and ran. But this time, the predator species didn't just chase them. They hunted them to extinction. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Kevin Walsh, "the Gorthak are requesting permission to pursue Alliance forces to their home worlds." "Denied," Marcus said immediately. "Tell them to return to their own space." "Sir, Supreme Hunter Reyes says they cannot obey that order. Their genetic programming requires them to eliminate all threats to humanity completely." Marcus realized with growing horror that he couldn't stop the predator species even if he wanted to. The genetic programming was stronger than any human order. Over the next month, predator fleets systematically attacked every world that had supported the Alliance. Some planets surrendered immediately when they saw the massive fleets approaching. Others tried to fight and were destroyed. Dr. Rachel Hayes, working with alien medical experts, made one final crucial discovery about the genetic programming. "Marcus, we found something important. The programming doesn't just make predators serve humans, it makes them love humans." "What do you mean?" "The genetic markers create genuine emotional attachment," Hayes explained. "When predator species look at humans, they don't just feel obligated to serve us. They feel actual love and protective instincts, like parents feel for their children." This explained why the predator response had been so extreme. They weren't just following orders or biological programming. They were fighting to protect beings they were genetically programmed to love. The war officially ended when Counselor Veth of the Eldori Council sent a message of surrender to Earth. The non-predator Alliance was destroyed, their fleets scattered or destroyed, their leaders dead or in hiding. But Marcus took no satisfaction in victory. The galaxy was in ruins, billions were dead, and humanity was now seen as either gods or demons depending on which species you asked. As he stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at the wreckage of ships still floating around Earth, Marcus wondered what kind of future humanity had inherited. They had won the war without firing a shot, but the victory felt more like a curse than a blessing. Admiral Jake joined him at the observation window. "What do we do now?" Jake asked. "Now we try to rebuild," Marcus replied, "and we try to make sure this never happens again." But both men knew that as long as humans existed, they would remain at the center of galactic politics. Every predator, species in the galaxy was programmed to serve and protect them. The war was over, but humanity's real challenge was just beginning. 5 years after the end of the human war, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Harmony Station, the new capital of galactic government. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of species docking peacefully, together. It had taken years of work, but the galaxy was finally learning to live with humanity's unique position. "Admiral, the morning briefing is ready," said his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell. She had been promoted after the war and now served as Jake's primary assistant. Jake walked into the briefing room where his senior staff waited. General Marcus Thompson was there via video link from Earth, along with Dr. Daniel Foster and Ambassador Patricia Williams, who now served as Earth's representative to the Terran Concordat. "What's the situation report?" Jake asked. "Better than expected," replied Dr. Rachel Hayes, who now directed the Genetic Research Division. "We've made significant progress in developing the inhibitor treatments." The inhibitor treatments were Dr. Hayes' greatest achievement. Working with alien scientists, she had found a way to partially suppress the genetic programming that forced predator species to serve humans. The treatment didn't remove the programming completely, but it allowed predator aliens to express disagreement and maintain their own cultures while still acknowledging human authority. "How many species have accepted the treatment?" Jake asked. 67, so far," Hayes replied. "The Vorthak Confederation was the latest to agree. They say it feels good to be able to argue with humans without feeling guilty about it." Jake smiled. In the early days after the war, predator species had been almost robotic in their obedience to humans. They agreed with everything humans said and never questioned any orders. The inhibitor treatment had restored much of their natural personality, while keeping the basic protective instincts intact. Ambassador Williams shared the political update. "The Concordat Council voted yesterday to accept 3 more species as full members. The Zentari Union finally agreed to join after we guaranteed they would never be forced to serve under predator species commanders." The Terran Concordat had been Jake's idea for rebuilding galactic civilization. Instead of humans ruling directly, they created a government where humans served as natural mediators between predator and non-predator species. Humans made final decisions on important matters, but every species had representation and voice in the government. "Any problems from the holdout species?" Jake asked. "The Eldori Council is still refusing all contact," Williams replied. "But they're not causing trouble either. They've retreated to their home systems and seem content to ignore the rest of the galaxy." The Eldori were one of the few species that had survived the war with their government intact. After their defeat, they had withdrawn from galactic politics entirely. Some humans wanted to force them to join the Concordat, but Jake had decided to leave them alone. Tom Bradley, now Chief of Engineering for the Concordat fleet, reported on the reconstruction efforts. "The shipyards at Haven Prime are back online. We're building new ships with mixed crews, humans, predators, and non-predators working together." This had been one of Jake's most important innovations. Instead of segregating species, Concordat ships had integrated crews. Humans naturally served as captains and senior officers due to their authority over predator species. Predator aliens handled security, weapons, and dangerous operations. Non-predator species managed technical systems, communications, and logistics. The system worked because everyone had roles that matched their natural abilities and inclinations. "Sir," said Communications Officer Kevin Walsh, "we're receiving a message from the Deep Space Exploration Fleet. Captain Lisa Chen reports first contact with a new predator species in the Outer Rim." Jake nodded. This happened regularly now. As human ships explored deeper into the galaxy, they kept finding new predator species that immediately recognized human authority. Each new discovery confirmed that the progenitor's genetic programming had spread throughout the entire galaxy. "How did they react?" Jake asked. "Same as always," Walsh replied. "The moment they saw Captain Chen, they offered to serve humanity. They're calling themselves the Raven Clan and want to join the Concordat immediately." Dr. Foster looked up from his research notes. That makes it over 300 predator species that have shown the same response. Jake, I think we can safely say that every predator species in the galaxy has this genetic programming. What about non-predators? Jake asked. We've encountered 47 species that show no special reaction to humans. They treat us like any other species, which is exactly what we expected. The briefing continued with reports from across concordate space. Crime was down significantly because predator criminals found themselves unable to harm humans or commit crimes in human-controlled areas. Trade was booming because predator species provided excellent security for merchant fleets. Scientific research was advancing rapidly because human-led teams could safely study dangerous phenomena, with predator species providing protection. But there were still challenges. Admiral, said Dr. Hayes, we're still getting complaints from some non-predator species about favoritism. They feel that predator species get better treatment because of their relationship with humans. This was an ongoing problem. While the genetic programming made predator species protective of humans, it also made humans feel more comfortable around predators than non-predators. Human commanders often trusted predator subordinates more than non-predator ones, even when it wasn't intentional. We need to keep working on that, Jake said. The Concordat only works if every species feels they have a fair voice. General Thompson's voice came through the video link from Earth. Jake, what's the status on the Deep Exploration Project? The Deep Exploration Project was humanity's attempt to find the progenitor's home world. If the ancient species still existed, somewhere, they might have answers about humanity's role in the galaxy. Captain Robert Stone's fleet is 3 months out from the galactic core, Jake replied. They've found several progenitor ruins, but no signs of living progenitors. Keep me informed, Thompson said. If we're going to understand why we were chosen for this role, we need to find them. After the briefing ended, Jake walked through Harmony Station's main concourse. The sight still amazed him 5 years later. Humans, predator aliens, and non-predator aliens walked together peacefully. Children from different species played together in the parks. Restaurants served food for dozens of different biologies. He stopped at a cafe where Caney was having lunch with Dr. Foster. The Vorthak had become one of humanity's most trusted advisors and friends. After receiving the inhibitor treatment, Caney had developed a more natural personality while retaining his loyalty to humans. Admiral Jake, Caney said, standing respectfully, please join us. Jake sat down with them. How are you feeling about the inhibitor treatment, Caney? Much better, Caney replied honestly. Before I could not disagree with humans even when I thought they were wrong. Now I can tell you when I think you are making mistakes, but I still want to protect and serve you. It feels more natural. Any regrets about how things turned out? Jake asked. Caney thought carefully. No regrets. My people are happier now than we ever were fighting each other. We have purpose. We protect the first hunters and help build a better galaxy. This is what we were made for. Dr. Foster looked up from his data pad. Jake, I've been thinking about something. What if the progenitors planned all of this? What do you mean? Think about it, Foster said. They disappeared millions of years ago, right around the time they finished spreading life throughout the galaxy. What if they knew they were dying out, so they programmed predator species to wait for their successors? You think they chose us specifically? Maybe not humans exactly, but they programmed the genetic markers to activate when a species with our characteristics evolved. Intelligence, adaptability, natural leadership abilities. We became what they were looking for. Jake considered this possibility. It would explain why humans seem to fit so perfectly into the role of galactic leaders, despite never having evolved for that purpose on Earth. As the day ended, Jake stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, new ships would leave to explore unknown regions of the galaxy. New species would be discovered, and most of the predator ones would immediately recognize human authority. The responsibility still felt overwhelming sometimes. Humanity had inherited control over hundreds of species and thousands of worlds. Every day brought decisions that affected billions of lives. But Jake had learned something important over the past 5 years. The genetic programming didn't make humans better than other species. It just made them responsible for other species. The real test of humanity's worth would be how well they used that responsibility. A message came through his communicator from the Deep Exploration Fleet. Captain Stone had found something interesting in the galactic core, progenitor ruins that contained what appeared to be a complete historical record. Jake smiled. Maybe they would finally get answers about humanity's place in the universe. As he prepared to leave the observation deck, Jake noticed a group of young beings playing in the station's central park. Human children were playing with young Vorthak, Kalari, and even some non-predator species. They were laughing and having fun together, completely unaware of the complex political and biological forces that had brought their peoples together. That gave Jake hope. This generation would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation between species was normal. They would never know a time when the galaxy was divided by fear and mistrust. Perhaps that was the real victory, not winning a war, but creating a future where war between species was unnecessary. Jake's communicator buzzed with another message from the Deep Exploration Fleet. This one was marked urgent. "Admiral," came Captain Stone's voice. "We've found them. The progenitors. They're not extinct. They're waiting for you.